ever felt the ground tremble beneath your tent, as if something deep below was waking from a long slumber? What would you do if, at midnight, a mysterious glow flickered across the lake, and every time you blinked, you swore you saw shapes moving just beneath the surface? Before we embark on this chilling journey, a small favor. I'm on a mission to reach 1,000 subscribers, and hitting subscribe is completely free. Let me know in the comments when and where you're watching from. If tonight's story sends shivers down your spine, hit that subscribe button so we can uncover even darker mysteries together.
They say Moonwater Camp was built atop an ancient meteor crater, buried under pines and birches for centuries, until just last summer, when a team of geologists scraped away the loam and exposed a perfectly circular depression 30 feet across. The scientists were excited, until one of their instruments went silent. Then another. By nightfall, every piece of equipment had blacked out, and their radios crackled with static, and something else, something whispering. I'm Vale, an amateur filmmaker chasing true unexplained phenomena. Alongside me were Cam, a level-headed wilderness guide, Juno, a geophysicist fascinated by the crater, and Ezra, a sound technician who lives for distorted frequencies. We arrived at Moonwater Camp on a wind-whipped evening in late August, armed with cameras, night vision goggles, and an uneasy anticipation. As we unloaded gear from our pickup, the sun dipped below the ridge, painting the sky in bruised purples. The camp manager, Harper, met us at the edge of the crater. Her eyes were rimmed with exhaustion. We've had anomalies, she said quietly. Lights in the water. Strange tremors. Some staff are too spooked to stay. Cam unrolled his tent on a high bluff overlooking the crater rim. Below, the lake lay dark and glassy. Juno set up seismographs at 3 equidistant points around the circle, while Ezra planted hydrophones near the shoreline. I rigged cameras on a tripod aimed at the waterline. That night, as we gathered around a propane lantern, I asked, "Has anyone heard tapping?" Harper's gaze flicked toward the crater. "Some say it's the meteor calling." At 2:07 a.m., our seismographs registered a soft, rhythmic thrum, like a distant heartbeat. The ground under our feet vibrated in gentle pulses. Juno and Cam exchanged worried looks. Ezra's hydrophones crackled to life. Through the lantern's wavering glow, we crept to the crater's edge. The lake's surface rippled, though there was no wind. Then, out of the depths, a pale blue glow shimmered, growing brighter with each thump of the earth. "Is that bioluminescence?" Cam whispered. "I've never seen anything like it." As the glow peaked, shapes rippled under the water, elongated forms gliding just beneath the surface. Their movements were too coordinated for fish. Ezra's recorder captured a low, warbling pulse, more melody than language. Suddenly, the lantern flickered out. In the pitch dark, we heard scratching, not on rock, but on metal. I fumbled for my flashlight, and its beam caught Harper, pale and rigid, standing behind the tent row, staring past us. Her mouth opened, but no sound came. Then the tremors stopped. The glow vanished, and Harper collapsed, eyes rolling back. We raced down the bluff, adrenaline replacing dread. Harper's vitals were stable but shallow, she couldn't speak. Juno insisted we needed to see what lay beneath the lake. We found an old service hatch at the crater's lip, an access tunnel the geologists uncovered during their initial dig. Torches in hand, we slid down a narrow, muddy passage that opened into a domed chamber, walls lined with metallic plates fused to the rock. Strange glyphs were etched across every panel, glowing dimly where moisture pooled. Cam's flashlight grazed one glyph that pulsed like a heartbeat, then went dark. Beneath it, a metal door groaned open of its own accord. Inside lay a cavern aglow with veins of blue crystal, like the light on the lake. In the center hovered a translucent orb, suspended by tendrils of crystalline filaments. Inside the orb drifted fragments of scenes, Harper's collapse, our seismograph readings, even our own terrified faces. Ezra switched on his mic. From the orb came a chorus of whispers, intelligible this time. Why have you come? Why disturb the slumber? Share your pulse. I felt the orb's tendrils brush my arm, cold as ice. Juno's seismograph chimed in her pack, another pulse, stronger than before, echoing the orb's rhythm. The orb's light intensified, and we realized each of us was being weighed, judged by the pulse of our own hearts. Harper lay at the chamber's edge, skin paling further with every beat. Suddenly, the orb's glow dimmed, then flared into blinding brilliance. We covered our eyes. When we dared look again, Ezra was gone, vanished without a trace. In his place lay the hydrophone, cracked and silent. The orb pulsed once more, now in frantic staccato. Cam grabbed Juno. "We can't stay," he whispered. We turned to run, but the door slammed shut. The chamber darkened except for the orb, which drooped, its glow flickering like a dying star. Desperate, Juno held her hand to the orb and matched her own heartbeat to its fading pulse, slow, steady, unbroken. The orb responded, its light stabilizing. Walls shuddered, the door swung open. We fled back through the tunnel, torches guttering. As we burst into the night air, Harper stirred, her eyes clearing. Ezra stumbled from the trees, mud-slicked and dazed, unable to explain where he'd been. Behind us, the metallic hatch clanged shut. We didn't look back. At dawn, the crater's lake looked harmless, calm, reflective, unremarkable. Our instruments were dead, seismographs flatlined, hydrophones silent, cameras corrupted by static. Harper refused to leave, muttering to herself, "They're sleeping now. I can feel it." Cam shook his head. "We have what we came for. Let's go." We packed quickly, hearts still hammering. Before we drove away, I spun for one last look. No hatch, no chamber, only smooth rock where the tunnel had been. Now, back home, I can't sleep without the faint echo of that pulse running through my mind. At night, I dream of the orb calling, insistent, humming, begging me to return. If this story left your heart racing, don't forget to subscribe for free and help me reach 1,000 subscribers so we can chase even stranger echoes together. Sweet dreams, but beware the pulse beneath your feet.
Have you ever lain beneath a canopy of stars so dense it feels like the sky itself is watching you? What would you do if, half an hour past midnight, the embers of your campfire flared into a brilliant light, only to reveal a lone figure standing at the edge of the clearing, motionless and unblinking? They call it Bearclaw Ridge Lookout, an old fire watch tower perched atop the highest peak of Hallowstone National Forest. Rangers abandoned it decades ago after a series of unexplained fires ravaged the slopes below, fires that flared without lightning, burning in perfect circles. I'm Riley, an outdoor adventure vlogger chasing the unknown. Joining me this weekend were Tara, an aspiring novelist with a knack for noticing the smallest details; Marcus, a wildlife biologist who feared no creature but feared what he couldn't explain; and Lena, our camerawoman, whose steady hand hides a restless curiosity. We arrived mid-afternoon, hauling gear up the winding trail as pines whispered overhead. The tower loomed ahead, steel legs anchored into bedrock, its wooden cabin perched like a spider's nest. We chose a campsite 50 yards below, in a clearing ringed by dead saplings. After pitching tents, we climbed the rusted ladder into the tower cabin. Inside, moth-eaten maps and an oil-stained journal lay half-buried beneath debris. Tara flipped it open. July 3rd, 1978. The circle grows each night. We left offerings, rocks, feathers, our own blood, but they came anyway. The fire dances without fuel. A dried stain darkened the page margins. Marcus shivered. "What circle?" he whispered. Tara traced a drawing, a perfect ring etched into the dirt, 14 feet wide. At its center, she'd drawn a single footprint, larger than any human's. That evening, We built a campfire and shared stories of near-miss bear encounters and ghost train sightings. As midnight approached, Lena captured the breeze's moan through her microphone, an odd rhythm, neither wind nor animal. Just then, the embers leapt upward in a sudden blaze. Startled, we shielded our eyes. When the glow subsided, we saw it, a ring of scorched earth 50 feet across, encircling our camp. Inside that circle, the grass lay charred but the logs remained unburned. "Who or what made that?" Lena asked, voice trembling. We searched the perimeter. Nothing stirred except the pines. No footprints. No drop tools. Just the faint echo of crackling, though the fire had long since died. At 3:13 a.m., I awoke to the sound of hushed voices, soft murmurings drifting through the trees. I nudged Marcus awake. Through the gloom, we traced the sounds uphill toward the tower. The circle from last night lay faintly glowing under moonlight, embers still pulsing like dying coals. A sudden breeze carried a sharp scent, iron and ash. Tara's flashlight beam found a single shoe print outside the circle. It was too big for any of us. Its sole bore an unfamiliar symbol, a spiral with 3 spikes. Lena's camera whirred alive on its own, recording the tower's broken window. Inside, pale shapes flitted behind the glass, no distinct form, just movement. We retreated to our tents, hearts pounding. Sleep was impossible. Dawn brought uneasy silence. Our tents bore no damage, but the scorched circle remained. We decided to explore the tower properly. Marcus rigged his trail cams around the foot of the ladder. Lena set her camera inside the cabin. Tara searched for clues in the journal, while I climbed the ladder. Inside the cabin, everything was unchanged, until I noticed fresh ash on the journal's open page. Beneath the first entry, a new line scrawled in trembling script. "They come for the watch. They come for the flame." My skin prickled. I snapped photos as I read. Then I heard footsteps, metal creaking as someone walked above. My breath caught. The tower's hatch was closed. I shook the ladder. No response. Then the hatch sway rattled, as if opened, and silence. That afternoon, Lena downloaded footage. At 2:58 p.m., a glowing orb drifted around the ridge, casting spiral shadows. It moved slowly, inspecting the tower before drifting downward, right over our camp. The campfire, extinguished hours ago, flared once more, then died again. We examined the ladder. Scratch marks ran down the side, tall, uneven, as if someone, or something, slid down them barefoot. Tara found another note in the journal's back cover. "Find the stone that feeds the flame. Break it, and the watchers sleep." She underlined stone 3 times. Marcus recalled a geological survey, a large, iron-rich boulder said to rest at the crater's center. But Bearclaw Ridge has no crater, until you know where to look. As dusk fell again, we followed Marcus into the woods, GPS set to the survey's coordinates. After 20 minutes, we broke into a grove of young pines. At the center lay a moss-covered boulder, half buried, glowing faintly red at its core. Tara knelt, brushing away moss. The spiral symbol from the footprint was carved into its surface, cracked and smoldering. We realized this was the heart of the circle. Lena trained her light on it. The boulder's glow intensified. Suddenly, the whispering pines swelled into a roar. Shapes convulsed among the trunks, pale figures with ember-lit eyes, their hands reaching for us. Marcus grabbed a rock hammer. "We have to break it!" With every strike, the ground shuddered. Sparks flew from the boulder, lighting the clearing in fiery flashes. Tara chanted the words from the journal's first entries to steady us. At the final blow, the stone fractured with a deafening crack, and an explosion of ash and flame. In that instant, the figures froze mid-reach, their eyes dimming. A gust of wind snuffed the glow. The ash swirled dispersed, revealing empty grooves in the earth where the boulder had rested. We staggered back. The forest was silent again, no voices, no embers, just the scent of scorched pine. As the first light of dawn crept through the needles, we heard a soft sigh. From the tower's direction came a faint knock once, then twice. Lena climbed the ladder to find the cabin door cracked open, but no one inside. On the desk lay the journal's final page, now blank except for a single line in fresh ink. The flame sleeps. Bearclaw watches still. We left Bearclaw Ridge at sunrise, our gear loaded in silence. The scorched circle faded with the morning dew, and the boulder's fragments cooled to gray stone. Back home, I replayed our footage. In every frame of the tower cabin, a dark silhouette stands watching from the corner, never moving, just observing. If this tale set your heart aflame, don't forget to subscribe for free and help me reach 1,000 subscribers, so together, we can light our lanterns into even darker woods. Until then, keep your watch, and mind the embers. Have you ever found yourself alone at a remote summer camp, the only sound the rhythmic drip of water through peeling roof shingles? What would you do if, just past midnight, you heard distant laughter echoing across empty cabins, and when you swung your flashlight toward the sound, all you saw was a single, swaying swing set, moving by itself? Camp Moonvale sat on the edge of Lake Penrose, surrounded by dense pines whose needles carpeted the forest floor in perpetual darkness. Built in the 1960s as a retreat for troubled youth, it closed abruptly in 1987 after 5 campers vanished without a trace. The buildings have stood empty ever since, until I, Sasha, and my friends ventured there for a weekend of urban exploration and ghost hunting. With me were Eli, a paranormal investigator who swears by EVP recordings; Nat, a drone pilot who wants aerial proof of spectral activity; Arun, a survivalist videographer always ready with his thermal camera. We arrived on a cool Friday evening, backpacks loaded with gear and a shaky sense of excitement. As we crossed the camp's rusted gate, a single swing creaked in the wind, though no breeze stirred. Our first stop was the mess hall, a wide hall of long tables beneath a collapsed skylight. Nat sent his drone inside, its propellers buzzing through the darkness. On the floor, I found a small handprint in the dust, fresh as if a child had pressed against the table. Eli played back his EVP recorder. Faint voices murmured, "Play with me," and "Come outside." We exchanged uneasy looks. The voices weren't on our recordings when we arrived, they'd appeared during our setup. A sudden thud upstairs made us jump. Arun aimed his thermal camera at the ceiling hatch. A gray shape slithered across the rafters, gone before we could focus. As dusk fell, we headed to the old lake lodge, perched on stilts above the water. Its windows were boarded, but one board lay loose. We pried it open and climbed inside. Inside, wallpaper peeled in curling strips, revealing old bulletin boards. Nat shone his flashlight on a roster listing campers from 1987, 5 names circled in red. Below them, someone had scrawled, "They never left." Eli whispered, "Should we call out?" He stepped to the open window and shouted, "We know you're here!" His voice echoed across the lake. For a moment, nothing happened. Then every loonie we placed as a makeshift wind chime on the porch began to jangle in perfect unison, as if stirred by invisible hands. At midnight, we gathered on the long wooden dock, waves lapping softly. Arun's thermal camera showed cold shapes drifting beneath the surface, too human to be fish. Nat switched on strobe lights, slicing the darkness with bright pulses. On the strobe's next flash, we saw them, 5 pale figures standing at the far end of the dock, motionless and drenched. Their heads hung low. When the lights blinked off, they were gone, but we caught their retreat on Nat's drone feed crawling through the reeds. A laugh, childish and hollow, rippled across the water. I shivered. "We need to leave," I said, but before anyone could move, the dock boards creaked as though someone were walking beneath our feet. Eli guided us toward the main trail, but the path had shifted, the signposts twisted, pointing back toward the camp rather than the parking lot. The trees here grew unnaturally close, their branches tangling overhead like skeletal fingers. As we stumbled through undergrowth, Nat's drone suddenly lost signal. His controller flickered. Intrusion detected. On screen, a glowing trail led deeper into the woods, pulsing like a heartbeat. Reluctantly, we followed. The trail ended at a small clearing, where a circle of mushrooms glowed under the starlight. In the center lay a broken music box, its wind-up key still turning. From its cracked lid drifted a warped lullaby. Arun bent to pick it up, and the mushrooms around us wilted, releasing a cloud of spores that choked the air. I coughed, vision blurred, and when I cleared my eyes, Eli was gone. Panicked, we searched the clearing. Nat's flashlight beam found a single footprint, small, bare, leading toward a collapsed cabin at the forest's edge. We raced there, hearts pounding. Inside the cabin's foyer, rows of photographs lined the walls. Faces of children staring forward, frozen in sepia. We recognized the 5 names from the lodge roster. In every photo, one figure stood slightly apart, always in shadow, always facing us. Eli's EVP recorder crackled to life on its own. "We lost, want back." The trailing words were a sob. Nat leveled his drone camera at a corner. On the screen, a dark shape crouched, limbs bent at odd angles. We scrambled toward it, but the figure darted behind the door and vanished. At the back of the cabin, we found a trapdoor beneath a threadbare rug. It smelled of damp earth. With a deep breath, Arun pried it open. A ladder led down into pitch black. One by one, we descended into a tunnel hewn from stone. The walls dripped water. The air tasted of iron. At the bottom lay a subterranean chamber filled with overturned beds and broken toys. At its center crouched a childlike figure, limbs too long, skin pale as ash, eyes black. It cradled Eli's coat. As we entered, it looked up, tilting its head. Eli, voice shaking, called out, "I'm here." The figure raised a small hand, its mouth opening in a soundless sob. I stepped forward, heart pounding. "We're here to help," I said. "We can take you back." The figure's head snapped toward the tunnel ladder, gesturing urgently. Nat retrieved his EVP recorder and pressed record, asking, "What do you need?" After a crackle, the reply came. "Promise, home, not abandoned." Arun laid down his thermal camera. "We'll bring you back to the lake," he promised. The figure rose, unsteady, and placed Eli's coat on the cold stone floor. At that moment, from the doorway, a dozen ghostly children stepped in, each wearing one of the 5 missing campers' faces like masks. They advanced, arms outstretched, pleading. We backed up the ladder as the children followed. Nat's drone, lowered on its tether, buzzed erratically, its lights flashing. We climbed 2 at a time, emerging into the cabin just as the hatch slammed shut below. Scrambling out, we ran back along the forest trail, the children's laughter echoing behind us. Reaching the dock, we saw Eli standing at the end, coat returned, staring at the water. "Get in the boat," I gasped. Together, we shoved off, rowing furiously across the moonlit lake. The forest's edge blurred behind us. By dawn, we'd reached our parked car. No sign remained of the cabin, the clearing, or the children, only the empty music box in Nat's hand, its lullaby cold and silent. In our footage, when we review the drone and helmet cams, we see only mist on the water, except once, a small handprint on the boat's side, vanishing as the sun rose. If this tale tugged at your imagination and left you with chills, don't forget to subscribe for free and help me reach 1,000 subscribers, so together we can explore even deeper, darker corners of the unknown. Until then, keep your flashlight close, and your heart closer to home. Have you ever smelled smoke on a windless night, yet seen no fire? What would you do if, in the middle of a thunderless storm, the old canoe you'd leaned against a tree vanished, and in its place you found a single, dripping puppet with your name carved into its wooden chest? Whisper Lake Camp was renowned for its wilderness therapy retreats, 5 days of paddle lessons, trust exercises, and firecraft under the northern pines. But last summer, the camp's final group never returned. Rangers found the cabins empty, meals half-eaten, and one counselor's radio playing a child's lullaby on endless loop. I'm Jake. We arrived at Whisper Lake on a muggy July evening, our kayaks loaded and flashlights charged. The camp manager, eyes rimmed with fatigue, handed us handwritten notes from the missing group, sketches of shadowy figures, pleas for help, and repeated warnings. Beware the woodcarver. That night, as we pitched tents on Cabin Row, thunderless yet ominous clouds drifted overhead. Tess found a small wooden carving at her doorstep, a child's face, mouth frozen in a silent scream. Noah played back his recorded audio from the day, static, then a child's giggle, followed by a whisper. Join us. Eli tested the perimeter with night vision goggles. Through the grainy green glow, he spotted something moving, tiny figures slipping between trees, indistinct but human in shape. At 2:45 a.m., a crash yanked us from sleep. We stumbled outside to find our kayaks adrift on the misty lake, anchored by nothing but a single puppet tied to the nearest dock post. Its chest bore my name, carved deep. Tessa's flashlight revealed footprints in the wet sand, dozens of tiny prints leading into the forest, but none returning. We chased them with our lights until we reached the old arts and crafts cabin, its windows caked in grime. Inside, dozens of puppets hung from the rafters, campers' faces painted lifelike, their eyes following us. Noah grabbed the nearest puppet. Its wooden jaw creaked open, not into silence, but into a ragged whisper. Set us free. By dawn, we found a trapdoor beneath the puppet-laden cabin floor. Torches in hand, we descended a wooden ladder into a workshop carved from cedar planks. The air was sweet with sawdust and something muskier, like pine resin mixed with fear. Workbenches held half-finished puppets, each poised in a contorted stance. Names were etched into their bases. Ava, Jackson, Lily, Marcus. The missing campers. At the room's center stood a massive carving block with fresh wood shavings around it. On top lay a tiny doll of Tess, missing one arm. From the shadows emerged a hunched figure, skin gray as old bark, fingers gouged into the wrists, as if bound and freed. Its head was wrapped in burlap, its breath rasped through the fibers. Eli stepped forward. We're here to help, he said, voice steady. The figure cocked its head, and in a low, creaking voice answered, They play, but never stay. Tess realized, the woodcarver traps campers' spirits in these puppets. To free them, we had to destroy the master puppet, the one that held them all together. But first, we needed to find it. The figure pointed deeper into the workshop, toward a sealed door carved with a spiral pattern. The door resisted our push until Noah recited the lullaby from the missing group's notes. The spiral symbol glowed softly, and the door swung inward, revealing a dim chamber. At its center hovered the master puppet, a life-size doll stitched from burlap patches, its face blank except for 2 glass marbles, one red, one black. In its chest cavity, dozens of puppet strings curled like veins, each ending in a child's painted hand. When the master puppet stirred, the strings tugged at the workshop walls. We heard the muffled cries of Ava and Jackson, pleading from their wooden prisons. Remembering the journal's final note. Break the heart, lose the strings. Tess produced a small hatchet she'd brought for firewood. With trembling hands, she aimed for the puppet's chest. The first strike echoed like thunder, and the burlap tore. The master puppet's head tilted back, emitting a banshee's wail. Strings snapped one by one, releasing spectral figures that drifted toward us, translucent and relieved. Ava's ghost appeared before Noah, her eyes shining with gratitude. Jackson's spirit embraced Eli and vanished in a swirl of white light. Tess struck again, this time at the heart cavity. The master puppet convulsed, its marble eyes shattering. The burlap body collapsed into a pile of lifeless rags. As dawn's first rays filtered through the workshop skylight, the freed spirits coalesced above the trapdoor, forming swirling lights that ascended through the cabin floor and into the morning sky. The missing campers' voices whispered a final, "Thank you," fading on the breeze. The burlap-masked figure watched from the shadows, now motionless. Tess approached and gently lifted its mask. Beneath was only smooth wood, no face. The figure gave a final nod, then dissolved into a wisp of sawdust. We emerged blinking into sunlight. The cabins looked ordinary again. Our kayaks rested neatly on the shore. No trace remained of puppets or trapdoors. Only a single wood shingle at the workshop entrance, carved with the spiral symbol. Eli scooped it up. "A reminder," he said softly. "If this story tugged at your heart and left you looking over your shoulder, don't forget to subscribe for free and help me reach 1,000 subscribers, so together we can uncover even darker, stranger mysteries. Until next time, keep your lantern close, and beware of what lurks under the floorboards." Have you ever felt the soles of your boots sink into mist so thick it swallows every footstep? What would you do if, at the stroke of midnight, every light in your camp winked out, except one lantern that burned with a flame too blue to be real? Emberwood Camp was supposed to be the perfect glamping getaway: canvas tents with wood-burning stoves, solar-powered lights, and gourmet s'mores kits. Tucked into an ancient forest known for its blanket fog, it promised tranquility, until last season's guests reported hearing their own whispers echoing back at them, long after they'd spoken. After unpacking in Tent 7, we gathered around the communal fire circle. S'mores in hand, we swapped urban legends until a sudden gust snuffed out every torch but one, a solitary lantern on the far edge of the clearing, its flame unnaturally blue. Rohan scoffed. "Must be a gas leak." Tina raised her recorder. "Or something else." We watched as the lantern's flame flickered in time with our heartbeats, an uncanny rhythm none of us could explain. At 11:13 p.m., Leah's camera caught something moving in the fog beyond the fire pit, a pair of glowing eyes, then gone. Moments later, a soft whisper drifted through the trees. "Stay with me," in each of our voices, perfectly imitating us. We flashed our headlamps into the mist. Nothing. But when we replayed the audio, the echo came 20 seconds after we'd spoken, like someone repeating our words back from deeper in the woods. Driven by equal parts fear and curiosity, we tiptoed to the main lodge, a large canvas tent at the forest's edge. It was locked when we arrived, but the back flap stood open as if welcoming us. Inside, rows of empty chairs faced a makeshift stage. On the stage sat an antique phonograph, its horn gleaming in the lantern light. Next to it lay a stack of blank audio reels and a single handwritten note. "Play me at midnight. I will show you what you cannot unsee." We waited until the clock struck 12. Leah wound the crank and dropped the needle. The horn crackled, then the room filled with sound, Our own laughter and chatter from earlier around the fire slowed to half speed and warped into a dissonant dirge. As the record spun, the tense fabric walls bulged inward, as though living things pressed against them. A deep groove in the wooden floor began to glow, tracing concentric circles like ripples on water. Suddenly, the music stopped. The needle lifted. In the silence, something tapped from beneath the stage, slow, deliberate, 3 times. We pried up the stage boards to reveal a hatch. Rohan peered into the darkness. "A basement?" he muttered. Tina shone her light down a rickety ladder. We all felt it, that same pulse, faint, rhythmic, coming from below. Gripping our flashlights, we descended. At the bottom lay a circular room lined with floor-to-ceiling mirrors, each cracked and streaked with condensation. In the center stood the mirrored remains of the blue lantern, its flame now extinguished. Our reflections shimmered in the mirrors, and so did something else, a hunched figure with hollow eyes, standing just behind us in every pane. We spun around. Nothing. But when we looked back at the mirrors, the figure leaned closer. Tina smashed the lantern against the floor. In that moment, every mirror cracked in a spiderweb pattern. The room shook. The pulse grew louder, faster, like a monstrous heartbeat. Leah broke a pane closest to her, and the figure in that mirror dissolved into a mist that surged toward us. We retreated up the ladder as the hatch slammed shut behind us, sealing the chamber in darkness. We burst from the tent just as pale dawn filtered through the fog. The communal tent stood intact, the mirrors gone. The blue lantern sat unlit on the stage, now just an ordinary oil lamp. On the ground lay shards of glass, each fragment reflecting a different frozen expression of our faces. Back home, I reviewed our footage. In every shot of the communal tent at midnight, if you look closely, you can see that pulse, like ripples spreading through water, emanating from the lantern. So if your heart beats a little faster tonight, know that somewhere in Emberwood, something still listens and echoes. If this story left you breathless, don't forget to subscribe for free and help me reach 1,000 subscribers, so together we can shine our lanterns into the darkest corners of the unknown. Until next time, keep your lights bright and your reflections closer.